Hi there, esteemed audience, and welcome to another episode of Middle Grade Ninja. I'm your host, Rob Kent. As you know, I'm the author of Banneker Bones and the Giant Robot Bees, which is available now as a paperback, as an ebook, which is free. Yes, free to download whenever you're watching or listening to this, wherever fine ebooks are sold. You can also get an audiobook, which is not free, but you're listening to this, so I know you like listening to things. Check that out. Under the super secret pen name Robert Kent, I've written some novels for older readers, such as All Together Now, A Zombie Story, and many others. For more information about all of that, and more important, for thousands of interviews with literary agents, editors, authors, all the world's best people, head to middlegradeninja.com. And I couldn't be more excited. Today, I have the extreme good fortune to be talking with Sofía Lapuente and Jarrod Shusterman, authors of the new book, Retro, which is available this week, esteemed audience. We are talking on November 8th of 2022, just to let you know. So if we're not commenting on something that happened recently, now you know why. We're talking election night. Instead of watching results, we're going to have a fantastic conversation about writing and about books and all wonderful things. So esteemed audience knows that I never torture my guests by making them sit through me summarizing my guests' biographies or books. How painful when you're both there and could do a better job of it than I can. So Sophia, I'm going to start with you because your name's first on the book. Okay. If you would give esteemed audience an overview of your background, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so hi, I'm Sofía Lapuente. I'm the author of Retro. If you can tell from my accent, I'm from Spain, and that's why the main protagonist of the book is Hispanic. And I came to United States 7 years ago to study in UCLA, and I have a major in fine arts, and now we teach in UCLA actually, and we write the screenplays too.
And I'm Jarrod Shusterman. Been writing for, I guess, over 10 years now, and started off writing screenplays. Wrote a short story in Unbound, in the Unwind collection, book called Dry, book called Roxy, and we actually both wrote Gleanings. We wrote a short story in Gleanings, which comes out today. It actually came out today.
Yeah, today.
Which you have.
Yeah, the fourth book of Scythe.
And it's called The Persistence of Memory and actually takes place in Barcelona. And then we have our novel together, which is, as we've held up before, but we have one too, Retro. So yeah, we're just super excited to be here and talk with you today. And yeah, that's who we are.
Yeah. And if you want to know more about us, we have social media. We are always on Instagram and TikTok, doing fun content.
Yeah, we're always doing fun, silly content. It's Sofia and Jarrod. So at SOFIANDJARROD. If you guys want to check us out on Instagram or TikTok, we're always up to something.
Gotcha. I've got all kinds of questions about how do you find time to write books and do social media.
Right.
we have no idea. It's insane because it's like now it's like 3 jobs in one, right? I mean, just marketing the book, as you know, just marketing the book is a whole job. It's a whole 40-hour week job.
Yeah.
No?
Let's say it's 5 p.m. right now, and we didn't start to write yet. We've been the whole day just doing social media today, videos, talking with you. And now we're going to start to write when we finish the podcast.
Yeah. So
I'm reading the next book.
Yeah, right. And for us, it's almost like just make the writing happen. You have to force that because everything else they're going to make you do. Everything else the publishers are going to make you do, or
an email
comes, or we have to be here for a talk. So you're going to make sure you're doing that. So we just have to really force the writing. And it's tough sometimes, but it feels really good and it's really rewarding when everything comes together, especially with Retro. Everything's going along so well and we just can't wait for it to come out.
Well, I know this is going to, every day is a little bit different, which is what makes writing such an exciting thing. But on a typical day, if there is anything even closely resembling that, what does that look like? What time do you guys get up? What do you do first?
We are like I'm the day man. She's the night girl. If we wanted, we could have just a schedule that barely intersects. I mean, you can go to bed at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
4 a.m.
But no, it's like you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
You have a coffee.
Yeah, and I need my thing. I need my coffee. I need my desk. I have everything kind of organized perfectly. And I sit there and I have the song that plays over and over again. I'm like, and I write and I get as much done as possible. And so I'm like really order. And you're more like chaos, right?
I wake up around 11 a.m. if I can. And then I'm like, okay, what happened this morning? What did you write? How is the things going, you know? So with that, I can avoid the first emails. You know, normally he's the ones that read them. I'm sleeping. And then we get together, we start to write together. And then probably by 8 p.m., let's say you're done.
Yeah.
And then I continue with that maybe until 2 a.m., 3 a.m., no problem. I'm writing, checking emails, social media, and then I go to sleep.
Yeah. And being that you're on Spanish time too, because so many of your friends and family are technically in the future. So staying up later makes sense for you.
It allows me to reply to them, talk with them.
But yeah, it's like it's a function that's actually worked really well for us because we have our time apart. I have my time to be able to really work on the things I want to work on. You can work on what you want to work on, and then we'll intersect and talk about what we need to work on, which is vital.
Gotcha. So I always had this picture in my head when I see collaborating authors that maybe you're sitting together sharing the same keyboard. I'm like, oh my God, what a nightmare. But no, you're in separate quadrants, working separately and then coming together to figure out what you worked on.
Yeah, a lot of it's separate. Like I don't like to work. I can't just sit and just write with somebody at the same moment. It's like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Do that. I mean, we do that 5 hours per day.
I mean, we'll do that kind of thing when we're developing a lot of ideas and when we're
edits
outlining.
have to be together.
Edits have to be together. But like the creation process, we're both kind of creating separately and then we bring it back to the whole now.
And then when we are together, but when we bring it back, I would say like, around 5 hours per day is together. Yeah. And then another 4 or 5 separate.
Yeah.
It's more or less good.
But like that, we're kind of working like 15 hours a day. If you think about it, the Sophie Jarrod thing, that is Sophie and Jarrod.
Yeah. That sounds like a healthy collaboration, a little time apart to make the heart grow fonder, right?
There you go.
I think a lot of couples that have come through, oh God, please come through, or are still going through the pandemic, at least some variation of trying to figure out a new rhythm. We're going to share the same space for a long period of time, but you got to have your spot in the house. I got to have mine. We got to have a little bit of separate space.
Well, it's funny for us when the pandemic hit, like nothing really changed because we were so used to spending so much time together, always working together. All these other couples we knew had to figure it out. And we were like, oh, you mean just like the same thing that we always do? So nothing really changed so much.
Yeah.
I do find that pretty consistent as I talk with authors as opposed to people that have more regular jobs is, well, my life changed some, but be alone and work alone, I was fine with that. Like, of course, that's the job.
I mean, for being writers, we spend a lot of time together. Maybe in that moment, we are not both writing, but maybe he's writing and I'm with the social media, right? But at the end we live together, so you spend time. You don't feel that maybe loneliness that some authors can feel. Like every time I have a question, Jarrod, do you think this is good? He's there, right? Like I don't have to wait 3 days with myself. Am I going to do this? No. Do I want this thing that I wrote? No, we can always be checking each other.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like when you're writing, you're by yourself, you're so in like your own echo chamber, right? And you can overthink things and you can run your brain out and you can just be alone. And I'm not someone who likes to be alone. I'm really more of an extrovert. I like to just be around people. So writing for me was always something that was kind of grueling and I didn't like that I had to be alone. So I started off writing with my dad and now I'm writing with Sophie. And it's like, it's just so nice to be near somebody because I can bounce ideas off you, or we can take a break, we take a walk, we can be normal people.
Well, I've got lots of questions. Let's start at the beginning and work our way forward. So 7 years ago, you guys are both at UCLA studying television, film, screenwriting, or you are, and Jarrod, you just happen to be nearby at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. So we met and it was like, okay, I'm going to get, a little cheesy, but right when we met, I was like, I have to know more about this girl. I have to know her. We just started being together and we couldn't stop being together. And it wasn't long after, maybe a few more months after, I always knew she was, working in film and we were both storytellers. But it wasn't a while after till it clicked, like, wait, why don't we work together? It just kind of came as a natural thing out of just our relationship and our shared interest. And we just kept writing together. And from there, it was just writing screenplays here, screenplays there. And then we decided to do retro. And then now we're just, going forward with as many books as we can. And this is really, really our path for us. And we're so excited and we can't wait. We also love screenwriting. We love to write a book and then have that book become a television show or a movie. And right now we're adapting Dry for the screen and, hopefully that all goes well. They're all, 5 to 10 year processes, But yeah, that's what we're really excited about Retro too. So can't wait.
It was romance first, and then eventually you say, "Hey, let's collaborate." How long into the relationship do you take this huge leap of faith that maybe we can collaborate and not destroy what we have romantically?
I will say romance. Then 4 months after,
Yeah,
we
4
started
months.
to write together. First, screenplays,
Mhm.
and then I will say the book came maybe a year after.
Yeah, book came a year after.
After we met.
So it was like a transition because I was also transitioning from finishing up a title with my dad. So it was kind of we transitioned to then working together, and then but then now it's full time. I mean, we have so many projects in the back burner.
Well, that's smart. Then 4 months in, you're still figuring each other out more or less how we're going to do this long term. Are we going to do this long term? Whereas if you've been together 20 years and then you say, "Hey, let's throw this into the mix as well," that's, I imagine, going to be a little bit of a harder transition.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for us, we had to make decisions really early when we met. I mean, like right when we met, it was this situation of, are you going to be in Spain? Am I going to be in the United States? Am I going to be in Spain? And we had to make those decisions really quickly. So it was actually really like a kind of beautiful thing for us because we got to make really smart decisions about our lives really early on and stick to them. So almost like writing together was like obviously, or living together was like obviously. So it's just all of the normal things that I guess other people go, wait, am I going to do this? The moment when he asked me to, no, it's like, no, it's obvious. Of course we'll do it. It flows, it's the right thing to do. Everything feels right.
We're pretty romantic in general.
Yeah, I think we are.
I think that's almost more nerve-wracking than a marriage proposal is, will you write with me? Do you get down on
100%?
paper?
That's commitment.
There's a lot of commitment involved there.
Of course, Jared, we should mention your father, of course, is Neal Shusterman, author of Gleanings, and the guest on episode 190. Esteemed audience, check the back catalog. Well worth your time. Excellent conversation. So you grow up. I mean, did you ever know a time when your dad wasn't a big-time famous author?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, he was starting out more, but he was always, there's always a signing, there's always kind of recognition. It's true, it was in a time when YA wasn't really YA, right? It was kind of when the genre itself and that age range was becoming a definitive thing. But no, he would write almost for us kids as we grew up. He would write, at the age that we were, and then he would start with children's books, and then move to middle grade, and then move to YA, and then he was writing YA, and there was times where I have kind of darker propensities. I was like, Dad, you need to go darker. You need to start killing people. You need to just take it to the next level. He's like, I know, but it's for young adults. I'm like, I don't care. I'm 16 and this is what I want. And he was already going that way anyway, but I definitely helped vote in that direction. And I think ever since then, he's been able to come up with so many amazing stories and ideas and different worlds. I mean, from Unwind to Scythe, I always like it when he goes darker. And I think everyone else does too.
So anyone who's been permanently emotionally scarred by any of those books can hold you personally responsible for cheering him on.
You can hold me responsible for what happens to Roland in Unwind. You can definitely hold me responsible for that. I poked my dad. I was like, you have to write this scene.
hold you responsible for that, but also the tremendous success that has followed. So it was the right move. When does it occur to you? Because I imagine that's got to, when you're growing up with your father as a novelist, I imagine that's got to put some pressure on you that, do I want to follow in my father's footsteps? Do I also want to chase this thing? Or do I want to, I don't know, go be an accountant or something the exact opposite to rebel a little bit? When do you peace with, I'm also going to be in the family business, or have you?
Well, that's a really good question. It's a little bit of both. I started off when I was 5 and I wanted to own a chocolate factory, and then I wanted to wash cars. And then I started to figure out what I really wanted to do. As I matured, and I was like, I'm going to be a director. I'm not going to do anything that has to do with my dad. He writes books. I don't write books. I wasn't even like a super voracious reader back in the day. I was kind of just really bouncing off the walls outside, playing sports and things. And I really liked cameras. So I really wanted to be a director. And then at some point I realized that all the movies I made really sucked. And I needed somebody to help me make those stories better. So then my dad also wrote screenplays in Hollywood. So I asked him for some advice, and then so I always felt like I had my own identity and was going my own track, because I always knew what I wanted to do was more in that direction. And then when books came into play, it just came really naturally. So I kind of slipped into it, and it didn't feel like I was filling shoes. or in anyone's shadow, because also what I do and what we do is so different. Where we want to go.
Yeah.
We write a different genre. We're more in thrillers. We play a lot in romance. So just having my own identity has always made me feel comfortable in my own skin as a writer. And you also have a family of creators as well.
Yeah, but I didn't feel any pressure ever. I was just like, I felt like a free spirit coming to United States. I feel like my family lost what I was doing. They were like, she's just there in LA writing and telling her stories and she's okay. So that's it. And actually, I just can't wait for Retro to be in Spanish so my family can read it, because they see me doing all this stuff, but they can't read it. And so I can't wait.
When, Sofia, what's your first memory of wanting to be an author, or when did you decide this was going to be your path?
First was like I was the clown of the class, I will say. So I was always like telling stories and making people laugh, or something will happen the weekend, and then I would come on Monday, hey, this thing happened, and this and this and this, and I was like, okay, I'm good telling stories. But I always was focused on screenplays. So at the beginning, I was like, okay, let's do screenplays, entertainment. I went to UCLA, I studied that. And then when I was with Jarrod, it came the idea of the book. Like, the book is an intellectual property. That's something that we can have forever. There is ours, no executive in Hollywood can change it.
It can.
That will be our baby.
Yeah, it can turn into that movie or that book or whatever.
So we thought it was a great way to kind of have a baby together. Like, okay, it doesn't cry. It's not noisy, but we put our love there, So it was like, okay, let's have the book.
It's like a baby that makes you money. That's good.
So I think I will start to be conscious about telling stories at 8 years old, and that's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, and for us, the plan too is we still want to direct. Someday in the future, we'd love to write a book and be like, we're also directing the TV show for it. That'll be the master plan down the road.
So both of you have a shared love of film, film and television coming in. So an impossible question, I'm gonna go ahead and ask anyway. What are your favorite films? Sofia, you first.
Okay, this is really funny because when I met Jarrod, I would say in our first date, I told him what was my favorite movie. Turns to be his favorite movie.
It is not like an average favorite movie for everybody.
Okay, so my favorite movie is Black Swan. Natalie Portman, 2010. Yeah.
Love, that's such a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say like my second favorite, it always just comes back to Big Fish. Okay. I love Big Fish, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And I know this is just happening because it's recent, but I just love Top Gun Maverick. I don't know. It was just a great movie, So like it goes in my top 10. I'll give it number 9.
Yeah, I would say my second one is Moulin Rouge.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All great films. I was also shocked by how much I like Top Gun Maverick, because I went in with my arms.
Yeah.
It's propaganda, because that's how they're going to get the planes. I'm going to hear how great the military is. But oh my God, when he says, "Talk to me, Dad," I'm a little bit weepy in the cockpit. Like, that shouldn't happen in the middle of this Tom Cruise plays volleyball shirtless at 94 movie, but it did. It was surprisingly emotional.
Worked so well. I cried. I cried like 3 times, and I told Sofia, I was like, I know maybe you're not gonna like it. She's like, I'm not seeing that. And it took her friends, her like girlfriends, to be like, Sophie, you have to come see this. I cried. And then afterwards, what happened?
I went and I cried.
See, she cried.
And I was like, you're American, but I'm not American, and I'm crying. I see this American flag, big, everything. I'm like, oh my God, this country. It was really, really. I mean, it's a good movie.
It was good. It was good.
And Black Swan's a great one. Also, I listened to the Perfection, which is that remix of the Black Swan ballet by Clint Mansell, I believe is the man's name, and it's just the most incredible piece of music.
Oh wow.
Anybody who's looking for music to write to, and we're going to talk more about that as we get into retro.
Yeah.
Looking for a great score to write to. That Black Swan score is just tremendous.
Thank you. I'm doing that. I'm going to be writing that down.
And when Black Swan was genuinely your favorite movie, that wasn't like a quick thinking on a first date that now you
it wasn't a first date.
Enoch has been keeping the lie for 5 years now.
I've been asking her, no, because I have the script. I actually have the script. So I have proof. I have the script. So that I got like from the Writers Guild like 10 years ago. So that is the proof. I wasn't just lying to you to continue the date.
Another great soundtrack, of course, is Requiem for a Dream, also Clint Mansell with the Darren Aronofsky film.
Oh, insane. So, yeah.
Like Black Swan, my God, you'll love Requiem. Well, you'll enjoy the music for Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, I would feel like after Requiem for a Dream, you need like 3 hours of like Friends to like get it out of your system. You need 3 hours of retro.
Yeah.
that's what retro is about, right? I mean, retro's like, we wrote it in a time that was like, things were tough, right? I mean, the world is crazy. And we wrote retro, like all the shows that we found ourselves wanting as life got more intense or difficult, or books we found ourselves wanting to read, were things that were fun, that made you feel good, that made you hook to the pages, that made you enjoy life, want to sing, want to dance. So we just wrote a book that we were like, you know what? We want this to be this like fun, thrilling escape for everyone. And a lot of people don't really combine thrillers and page turning mystery thrillers in a really fun way. So we're like, let's just do it with all the bells and whistles and neon lights. So that's where retro was born.
Well, that's a great way for us to get into your process, is to break down retro from start to present. So before we do that, I promise never to summarize your books. You decide amongst you who wants to give us who wants to tell esteemed audience what they need to know about retro, which they can be purchasing now while they listen.
Yes, you can all pre-order it now. We'll
be gone. Maybe we'll be out. We don't know.
Maybe it'll be up, and maybe it'll just be ordering. We'll see. Well, it depends when this airs. But so retro is pretty much, imagine if in a small town, a really bad cyberbullying incident happens at a high school, and it happens on the social media platform called Limbo. And what happens if Limbo then decides to come to the school to make the wrongs right, and offers the challenge of a lifetime, offers the students something called the Retro Challenge. And what is this? 1 year, 1 school year, without your phone, without your laptop, but you just go retro mode. You dress in whatever cool clothes from the past. You're listening to old music. You're driving old cars. You're hanging out at the mall. The mall's becoming cool again. And what happens if you make it at the end of the year? Well, you get the scholarship of your dreams. So our main protagonist, Luna, sets out to take this challenge along with her friends and meets new fun friends along the way. But then something crazy starts to happen. Contestants start to go missing. And there start to be all these oddities and threats that are happening within this town and within this challenge. And she realizes if she doesn't figure out who's sabotaging the challenge, then maybe she's the next person to disappear. So that is what retro's about. And yeah, it's a fun thriller. And every single chapter title is actually the name of a song. So we actually have, and I don't know if you know this, but we actually have in the actual book, there's a QR code inside the index. So you can just scan that and then listen on Spotify or, wherever, the whole playlist while you're reading the book.
So like the ideal reader for you in your mind that you're imagining is queuing up every one of these songs when they start a new chapter, more or less. Is that kind of the theme?
If you want, you can listen, or if you want,
once in a while you're reading and then you're in the car going to high school and you just play the playlist. That's another option. But it's the vibe that we want to transmit. This is the music that we think our characters will be playing and listening. And so it's to vibe with them.
Yeah, and each song really corresponds with the chapter and the chapter title. So, in and of itself, it's a chapter title.
So it's a little no spoiler, but when you see the title, kind of you can tell where it's going, the book. Like, it's going to be more thrilling or more fun, more romantic. What's going to happen here?
Yeah, I can tease the chapter, right? It was so fun to do. And there's like, I think 56, 57 songs, and a lot of them came from the heart. A lot of them are Spanish songs or Hispanic songs. Some of them, and a lot of
Enrique Iglesias, we have La Macarena.
But they're mainly all songs that everybody is going to have heard and enjoy. We made sure that it's gonna appeal to everyone.
So you guys have, I'm assuming, listened to each of these songs multiple times, both in the drafting and then in the revising.
Yeah.
And then occasionally for fun afterward, right? Reflecting on what a great time you had writing retro.
Yeah.
Like the last song is Heaven is a Place on Earth. by, I think, Belinda Carlisle. And I don't know how many times I have to hear that song, but I don't ever get tired of it. So I'm actually not sick of any of the songs. And I think maybe that was the litmus test, right? Like, if you don't get sick of the song, it's a retro classic.
So, wow. I referenced that song in my book, The Book of David, and listened to it a bunch of times.
Awesome.
It's a popular song, especially for folks of a certain age. We all have our fond memories of where we were when we first heard the song. And now we've all seen San Junipero, which has maybe the most.
That's what kind of inspired us a little, because it's like that is the ending.
Because we love that episode.
I love that episode. It's one of my favorite. That goes in my number 3 favorite movies, and it's not even a movie, so yeah.
that is the afterlife I want for myself, or whatever version it would be. looks all right. So let's break down the process of breaking retro. You said you're writing this during a stressful time. When do you start retro?
I think we started 2019, just before the pandemic. We start with we had the idea, the characters, the plot, and we start to write, I would say, the first 60 or 80 pages.
Yeah.
The first 80 pages that got changed 20 times, but the first ones were in 2019.
Yeah. End of 2019. Yeah. And it's been a long process ever since, and a lot of new drafts, and a lot of different people reading it, editors reading it, agents reading it. So it was like, got to a point where so many people have read it and so many people have seen over it. We feel like it's just such a polished, like copy editors have seen it's such like a polished material for us. We're just so happy with how it turned out, and we hope that all the readers love it too.
I said stressful time. You guys mentioned the pandemic hadn't started, but our esteemed audience will remember 2019 was in no way stressful. It wasn't until 2020 that the world got nervous. It was a long 6 years. Anyway, so you guys are actively courting. I assume you're brainstorming. You know you're going to work together. You're going to write something. Is this the first book that you start, or had you done another one prior to this?
This is the first book together.
Yeah. And then in between this book, we did Gleanings. While we were writing retro, we have a break, kind of, and we did the story in Gleanings. Then we continue with retro. And now we are developing 2 other books. Yeah,
we have 2 other novels, one of which we're ready to do a final pass on. It's actually an adult title. And that one we're going to maybe go out with in the next 6 months. We'll see where that lands. And then we've also been working on our next YA title, and we don't have a pub date yet for it. But
we can talk about it.
It's a secret project. We can't even talk about it, but super excited about it, and have been, because it's been a little, a bit of a long process for retro to be published. It's true that 3 years isn't that crazy of a process now, but in retrospect.
If we are doing retro, we already developed the idea of the next YA book that now we are writing, right? You just don't stop to think. We have other ideas, screenplays, like the machine keeps working all the time.
We have the next 3 ideas already. We already know what we're writing up until 2026. So.
Well, you guys can't talk about it, but I can go ahead and confirm that it is a retro Scythe crossover. So look forward to that.
Songs with chapter titles.
So you're actively courting an idea. How many ideas do you keep a schedule? Like, we got to come up with this many pitches for our team project per day, or just you seize on this and you both say, yes, that's the one right away? How do you get to this?
We have 2 different teams, we as a team and our agents and us as a team. So for us, first, we talk many ideas. Yeah, why not? And then sometimes the idea comes, and when the idea comes, it's like, no, this is the one.
Like last week, one just popped, and it was like, that's it. And we both just go, that's it. That's an idea. We got to write about that.
And then we go to our agents. We normally offer them 3 ideas, but we want to do one of them. We have really clear which one we want to do. So then we just hope that it's the same one. And if it's the same one, we have really clear it's the correct one, because if our agents want it and we want it, it means that probably is the correct one. And that's what happened with the next YA book that we are writing, that we all thought the same thing.
Yeah, so we sent it to friends in the industry, friends, family, just all different opinions.
Teachers.
People in Spain, you know, so to get like an international, we always want to make sure we have an international perspective, even like apart from Sophie, just to know that our books are going to be well received in different places, and we're not just writing within our kind of our own myopic perspective, something for the whole world. but yeah, that's
everyone
that's
thought the
what
same
is.
one.
Everyone thought the same way.
Everyone.
So that's how we know. We kind of like, we know that we know, and then our agents agree, and then like our parents agree, and then and then it goes up the level.
Yeah.
I suppose that would be kind of a danger is, hey, me and the person that I share my everything with, who I see every day and they have all the same activities with, agrees that this is a fine thing. So it's probably fine. No, it's probably a good idea to get some other opinions.
Yeah. I mean, it's true that when we both agree on something, we feel like we're able to
We're really different.
We're really different, right? So our Venn diagram creatively gets really little.
Mhm.
And then, but that means we know that we're at least more efficient. If she likes something and I like it, then it must be something decent or halfway decent because it got past her and me in our small, kind of, way to get through it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting, but it always comes out better that way. And and we're happy for it.
So when you start with the idea, is it just conversations back and forth, or do you sit down and write an official proposal and go back and forth that way? When do you go from, hey, that would be cool, to this is our official plan, let's get started?
I would say first conversation, a lot of conversation, normally car conversation,
Yeah.
where we are driving somewhere, or traffic. Traffic is great to start to talk about ideas. Yeah. And then when we're really like, yeah, like this is one of that ones that could be the one, then we sit together and we write what we talk in the traffic. And then we try to fill the gaps of the things we didn't talk, right? Because maybe you talk about a character and about a plot twist at the end, but there's so many things when you do a proposal. So then we sit, and maybe it can take us, I would say, 3, 4, 5 days to really make a proposal, develop the characters, the plot, where we want to take it, etc. And then if we decide that's the one we want to propose, then we send 3 like that, or 4 to our friends, family, and everyone. Then they choose, and then we go with that. And then we develop probably the first 6 chapters to see the shape that is getting. And if we like it, that's officially the idea.
So you're both professionally trained storytellers. How much you have to have more than just a great playlist? Is that an idea? You've got to have a protagonist. You've got to have the forces of antagonism. How developed does this idea need to be before you have something? What are the absolute things that have to be included?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. One of which, it needs to be enticing for a large range of people. Can't just be something that is kind of just like, for us at least, is kind of like a cult thing. It needs to be more people than not are going to find this interesting. I think another thing is that it needs to have some kind of theme or social relevancy that's important to us. And that usually comes first before the idea, because then we're really writing from a place of passion of, okay, are we doing something good for the world? Are we putting something out there that's going to make people think in a different way, or ask at least questions to then come up with better answers than we would just be able to give themselves? So that's another thing. And the next thing that we think about is it good commercially? Is it something that would translate well to the screen? Because that's another priority of ours. So, and
then I would say something has to be personal. For me to be comfortable writing with personal, I don't mean it needed to happen to me, but I hear this thing from my friend, or what my mom told me that happened to her when she was 20 years old, or something that connects, because then it's easier, at least for me, to understand the characters and the plot. Even if you do research in Google, I feel more comfortable if I know something, or I have a reference. For example, in Retro, that it started with cyberbullying, and then we talk a lot about social media companies. Part of it is because I used to work in Google back when I was in Spain, and that made me understand how their companies work. So from there, we started to pull out information, and was like, okay. And then both of our mothers are teachers, so we have here, unfortunately, a lot of cyberbullying cases. Like, we talk with our moms, and that's something that happened, and how everything developed in the high school, and the teachers, how it felt the kids. So it's like you mix that plus that, and then you start to have Retro. So yeah, it has to have a personal thing.
Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of kind of elements that have to come together for us to pick the right idea. And things like a strong protagonist and really close friends, and starting with characters first, a little bit more so than plot. There's certain disciplines that we have, but those are kind of muscles that have been built up over a long time of writing. So a lot of those things will come second nature of, how to build it per se. But definitely getting those columns in of what's going to make it the right idea. That's something we have to talk about all the time and get perfectly.
I assume sooner or later you're going to bump heads a little bit, just because both of you will have a separate vision. How do you keep the peacefully resolve creative disputes and make sure that that doesn't, well, I want to say that doesn't bleed over into your romantic life, but it sounds like it's all one and the same. Everything's happening all at once, right?
But it gets separated, I would say, the writing and the after writing.
Yeah, I mean, we try to keep it separate. We try not to bring our characters into the, into the dinner table with us. We try not to, but sometimes that does happen, and we try to keep things separate. I think the main thing is just if we
the
can.
rules that we have of Pito.
Yeah. We have a good rule, which is like if she says no to something, and then it's out. If I say no to something, then it's out.
Unless we can really, really pitch to the other person and convince the other person that it's a good idea for the book, then it's out.
And then we have to come up with a new idea that we both agree with. And like that, every time, deep down, if I hear no to something that I like, I'm like, oh, that sucks. I really like that. But it's a good thing because it means that at the end of the day, our story is going to be that much better. Our Venn diagram of what we're able to get through to, we'll be able to get through to more people, right? If it's gotten through both of us. So that's kind of how we see disagreements with writing, and generally that never bleeds into doesn't bleed into how we care about each other, how we feel about each other, or or if we write something and I go, I really like this, and she goes, I really like this, and for whatever reason it gets heated, it's like, who cares? This is at the end of the day, it's a book, and what's more important than books is us. And I think having that priority first will always allow our books to to be something that can touch people, or at least affect people, and hopefully make their lives better and more fun.
Okay, so it's not something where one of you says no to an idea and the other one's like, I don't want to go to dinner tonight. I just don't feel like it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with it.
No.
That has nothing to do with dinner.
Well, I think the upside, of course, is if for authors with non-writing spouses, who they're in their book and they've left the desk, but the characters are still in their mind. They're still thinking about ideas, and your spouse says, "Hey, where are you at?" And you try to explain it, you can't really explain. But if the other person's been there, they're working on stuff. Oh, I know. And if you're already there, I want to be there too. Let's not do a separation tonight. Let's keep talking.
Yeah, actually, sometimes it had happened to us. Maybe we have a plan a date, right? Like, this Friday we are going to, to the movies and then to a fancy dinner. And then we're putting our clothes and we're like, are you just thinking about that scene? Yes. Okay, let's take some fast food and go home. Like, let's change the plan because it doesn't make sense to. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to do that plan, that fancy thing, go to the movies when I'm just thinking, I think he's doing it too. It's like, let's move it. And no one is going to get mad to cancel that plan because we both are doing it. And we just change it, like, put your pajamas, take some fast food, and let's write.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, we'll do that plan next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Which is normally something that other people can't do. Yeah. So we can take time off of life, but we can also take time off of work whenever we want. So we try to go with like the flow of how we're feeling, because we know how important 12 hours can be if you're killing it those 12 hours, right? I mean, you can get 3 or 4 days worth of work, and
inspiration comes, don't deny it.
It comes when it comes sometimes. But then if inspiration is coming all the time every day, then we have to stop it and be like, okay, time to live our lives.
Yeah.
So,
let's take a shower.
Yeah, so it's a healthy balance. We try to strike a healthy balance. It's it can be difficult when you have so many goals and so many books ahead of you and so many things ahead of you. But that's the balance that you choose as a writer, right? It's the life that you've chosen.
So okay, so we get the 3 to 5 proposals out. Get everybody's opinion. This is the one we're doing. We've already got 6 pages. We know the main details fleshed out. What happens next? Is it I'll write my chapters in the morning, Jarrod, and then Sophie, you'll write the chapters in the evening, or is it how do you break down? How do you start drafting? Where do you go next?
Yeah, I mean, first I will say the developing like the synopsis and the characters that will be around 24 pages of proposal. Yeah, so we go really deep, really deep. Like we like to know in the characters everything, like how this character will react to this thing, what he prefers to eat, like we know everything, and then we do kind of like an outline, like from the beginning to the end, what will be the scenes, what is happening, what is the next chapter, almost like structure, right? Like we do all the structure. So
it's like there's like a 15-page outline and structure, and then there's like a 30-page or more or it could be 60 pages proposal, which is just the first 4, 5, 6 chapters of the book.
Okay, so you already got that before you start drafting in earnest then?
Before we start drafting what?
You already got the 6 chapters before you actually start drafting?
Yeah. We already have that, because in that way
we know at the beginning.
That way we can show it to our agents, we can show it to our publishers and be like, hey, this is where we're going. They'll know what we're doing.
Because we have the synopsis. So with the synopsis, you can tell how it's going to go the book. And then it's when we start really deep into chapter by chapter what's going to happen.
And then we pick up on page 30, or we pick up on page, for retros, we picked up on page 80, and you just keep running and you get to the end from there.
Mhm.
But it's fun because once we actually start, we're like, oh, we already are in it. So then when it's really time to sit and do it, we've already done all of this preparation. We're ready to go.
I know all the characters. I know what do you want them to do? Oh, save someone, done. Run away. I know how to. Go to class. I know what to do.
I mean, it's like you want to cut your vegetables before you cook. You don't want to do it all at the same time.
So what plot seems more or less straightforward. Once you've ironed that out, you know what's going to happen. I never want to say something's the easy part, because it's all easy and fun, and it's also all really hard. I know that. But one character split between 2 people. How much do you need to know that character to know they're going to be consistent? Because I assume you're meeting them and getting to know them along the way as you're writing them and as you're going back and making changes. Do you guys sit down and write out like a full character sheet? And if so, how much do you need to know about that character so you're both on the same page with who this person is?
A great question.
I would say I have.
Yeah.
A lot of the character from me is here. And then Jarrod will start to ask me. Because normally our protagonist is a female teenager, so Jarrod normally has to ask some questions like,
there's still a lot of things that I will never know about a woman's brain, so even to this point in my life. So I'm always having to ask and learn and be humble in that respect of what is she really thinking. And it's true, I'm getting better and better at it and learning more and more as time goes on. But it's definitely, so people kind of create the character, the idea of the character. Sometimes I'll do a pass on some pages, and she'll go, no, it's more like this. So then we kind of knead it like bread. And then once the 20 pages are done or 15 pages are done, then I kind of have a pretty decent handle on who that character is. And when we're writing things that are more plot heavy, I feel like I'll track it pretty more or less fine. But then if it's just a whole bunch of girls talking, hanging out, and there's banter, and maybe I enter in that. So if he's going to be like, I don't think they're going to talk that way. I don't think they're going to talk about the male love interest in that regard. And she'll have her input and her way to take the story and decide how that scene goes. So,
and then I think that for us, like, one thing is characters, and then we have thriller, and then we have action, day-to-day things. No, they go to class, and then they're going to go home, and then they're going to the movies. And with all that, when you know the characters, you don't need to prepare that much. You just know how they're going to go to the movies or how they're going to react to every situation. And I think that you start to meet, you don't know the characters, you know the characters, but you don't know, they need to grow, right? And you grow with the characters. And I think that that's really interesting, because that we do it together. One thing is knowing the character, but then it's like how we can push these characters so it grows. And Jarrod is really good at proposing ideas of, if we show this conflict, this character will need to grow. And then it's like, oh, okay, let's go that way.
Yeah, I feel like we're all provide, or I'll help out more in like the structure or pacing. You'll help out more in the characters, and then you also bring the thrilling aspect.
Yeah, I love plot and twists. I love it. I'm addicted.
More the character plot twist, and I'll be more structure and pacing.
Yeah.
You mentioned you get a character arc, they have to grow. It's something that amuses me, and you may have discovered this also. I've written enough books now that I've seen the character mind undergo a similar arc again. It's like, oh no, I was supposed to grow with the character, but I guess I'm still working on that. Oh, here it is again.
Yeah, you can learn a lot about yourself.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
So theoretically, you should ask your dad. He's finished. He's got book 51 coming out, so he should be close to perfect now. He should have figured out all of his issues and arcs, right?
Yeah, he should be perfect.
He gives actually really good advice.
Oh yeah.
Father, about character. Last time he was reading retro, and he just told us something I think is really important. He was like, even if it's annoying for your plot, make sure the characters react the way real people will react. Like, don't make it convenient for your plot. Even if you need to delay something, a scene or whatever, make sure they're always like believable.
And it's one of those situations where like and we'll go through our book and be like, okay, we're going to put on this hat of being a jerk, and I'm jerk today, and I'm going to read the book like somebody who wants to give it a 1 star on Goodreads, and I'm going to read it and tear it apart. And I'll do that. And then I can go through and be like, okay, what are the things that are total crap that 1 star jerk wrote? But what are some of the things that are like, you know what, maybe we could do better. And maybe this character's not being realistic. And maybe it's a little forced and convenient for the plot. And usually to solve that issue that you were saying that my dad had brought up, it's actually fairly easy usually, like if somebody just goes up to a house and they break the window and break through the window, that doesn't make any sense. A normal person will try the door first. So you must make sure the door is locked.
Yeah.
You have to make, and those are those little things, but like it takes you out of the story. If you don't track it.
That's wonderful advice. Well, that dovetails nicely with the question I was dying to ask. Having collaborated, I'm assuming you will collaborate again with your father, Jarrod. How I assume there have to be some major differences in collaborating with him versus collaborating with Sophie.
Oh yeah, it's a total world of difference. I mean, writing with my dad it's interesting in the fact that we'll write very quickly, but it's because, I kind of learned to write through him, or I was emulating, at least in young adult, kind of growing up, kind of emulating his style a little bit of just as a reference of this is how you write. And then he was my mentor growing up. So he would say, hey, this isn't working. So I kind of naturally turned into, in some regards, my own self, but also a little version of him in some ways. So writing with him was really seamless. It was really easy to go in between characters and it would go very quickly. But, he's a creator and has his own ideas of where he wants to take things. And, I have my own strong ideas of where I want to take things. So kind of breaking off as my own creator is definitely something that I did with Sophie. And we both are very strong and have very different ideas of what we want to do. So it's almost like writing with myself in that regards, which means our books happen a little bit slower. But so much gets talked out. There's a lot more planning. There's a lot more things are really, really, really fine-tuned and thought out in a degree that I've never experienced before. And there's a lot of disagreeing. And then there's a lot of fixing those disagreements to be at a point where we're both really happy. But I think that's what makes it great, because it's like, if we're able to write something that then somebody in Europe who's also, Sophie comes from a different culture, different gender, different religion, different, first language, everything. So it's like, if both of us can be happy with something, then that means we've just, spread our breadth of who we can satisfy that much further.
So I guess the trick will be to, as you're going forward, both creatively and romantically, to not become, how couples get to a certain age, they start to look alike. Try and avoid that. Stay separate so that you'll have 2 different perspectives on all of your stories.
People have asked us if we were related before. I guess it's our smile, but
it's like, ew, no.
I think, ew, no. And I don't think we are morphing into each other.
No.
Like a lot of those older couples, you see a picture and they just look the same. We're not there yet. We're not there yet. Give us 50 more books.
I'm married up. My wife is way more attractive than me, so I hope it never happens. So, while you're writing, are you revising as you go? One of you writes something and then the other one comes along right behind, or do you get the whole thing drafted and then start revising? When does revision come in, and how does it work?
Exactly. Yeah.
It depends, right? Like, I think it depends a little bit on which section, because we separate our books in the fun part and the thriller part, kind of. And I feel like the thriller part is really specific because you can improvise that much. We really need to airtight the whole thing. So it's more like, okay, we're doing this. She's going here and then she discovered this thing and then the other one come and then the other one see. And then, so it's not disagreement when you're writing because it's all absolutely completely airtight. And then the fun stuff is when I will say, yeah, we talk the scenes and maybe Jarrod goes to write some and then I check and then we review together that scene. And then what if we do that thing? Oh, okay. And then we do it like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and we pretty much stay, like, one of us will write something, the other one stays a couple, as you were saying, 5 pages behind. We'll give notes and edit, and then we'll go, that person will do another pass, and then we'll sit together and we'll look. So it's like, it's kind of like a 3-step process in that way. We found that's what really works.
Yes.
But the important
Failure
thing
goes really fast.
But what's really important that we found in life, love, and work is communication, communication, because we have to talk everything out before a chapter. Because if I go and write a chapter and we didn't talk enough about it, she might come back like, that's a little boring to me. And so I'm like, okay, why didn't we talk more? We got to talk more and make sure that you're on board with what I'm doing and I'm on board with what you're doing.
And when we take the things is like that stays. If we say that a scene is in the cinema, no one can wake up and be like, no, I feel like in amusement park, I'm going to write today. Like, no, we said cinema. If you want to change it, let's have another talk and pitch me why cinema wasn't such a great idea and it's better to go to an amusement park.
Yeah, because, sometimes you'll want to just kind of change something. Like, I think this will be better. But you don't realize that the other person had put a lot of thought into that specific thing. Yeah. So even if you're going to change something that feels arbitrary to you as a co-writer, you have to double check why that person thought that way, and that's why the communication is so important.
Maybe I choose cinema because I want the darkness of the cinema, so then the crime could happen and no one will see the person that did it. And then if he changed the scene to amusement park, and I'm like, this doesn't work anymore. So there's a lot of behind every decision. So it's important to stick to it.
So you're each taking turns drafting. Nobody's doing all the revising. Nobody's doing all the drafting. You're writing different parts of the book and then coming back together, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And there'll be some parts too where one of us will just go, take it.
Yeah, I feel really comfortable. I have it super clear. Like, for example, in retro, the interstitials, because there's interstitials and is the main protagonist talking and things happen. I have them really clear. I was like, I know how she talks, what she sees, what's going on, what things are going to happen in different interstitials. So it's like, okay, then
I was like, just go. You do it, and then I'm gonna then read it after, and then we'll go through together and figure out how we make it fit for both of us. But yeah.
Of course, part of the book, writing is so awesome. There's so many great parts, but part of the joy is in creating fresh and new when you're sitting there at the page and you're coming up with dialogue on the fly. The good news is you're sharing that, right? When you're outlining and deciding what the scene's going to be ahead of time, all that inspiration is shared. But when you sit down and it's just one of you drafting the scene, where are you finding that buzz while you're drafting? Or is it just like taking dictation at that point? You can quickly write it out and move on to the emails and the social media.
Oh, you say.
You go ahead.
I think that social media came to our life a year ago. So at the beginning of retro, it was no social media, so it was a little bit different. Now I feel like I wake up and while he's drafting some scene, I'm with social media to start the day, and then I check what he has done, and then we work together, and then back to social media, and then work together, back to social media, he goes to sleep, I work alone. That will be more or less the whole process, I would say.
And the social media and just social media and marketing, all of that stuff makes it a lot more difficult, right? Because you're trying to really be in the zone. You're trying to I need to kind of turn off the world. That's why I listen to music. And then if I get an email, and then if I get this, it's so many things. Sometimes it can be a lot. So, I just cherish those moments I can get where I'm just writing or if it were weekend, Saturday is a great day. No emails, no nothing.
We love to write on weekends.
Social media posts usually don't do as well as on weekends, so we can take a break from that, and you just, we'll work and write really well.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so prior to having a book to promote, did you guys do some sort of retro type challenge where you stayed off social media for a while?
I did like 10 years of retro challenge.
I did like 12 years of retro challenge. Yeah. I mean, I'm a 91.
I'm 93.
So, we spent our time definitely living that. But I mean, what made this so interesting to write about was like, we both lived on the verge as a millennial and zillennial of I know what it's like to just live in a world without any of this stuff. I remember what T9 texting was. I remember some of those things. So it was really interesting that I straddled both worlds. And so did Sophie, to be able to go, okay, let's write about both perspectives. And we feel like that's something that's really germane to our generation.
And listen, sometimes we do it. Sometimes, even if you're not writing, right? It's like, okay, today, no fun.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
We go retro mode.
Yeah, we go retro mode all the time. And we say retro mode because actually we show it in the book. It's not about stop to have your phone. I mean, we're using laptops right now to talk to you. It's about, what if right now I go retro mode? I spend my evening with my friends, and tomorrow I will take my phone again, use the alarm, application so I can wake up on time and all that. But sometimes it's a moment to stop to use that thing.
Yeah, it's nice to decompress, just because like almost all of our lives are about 13 hours a day on average is what we spend in front of screens. And it makes sense from, we'll talk like this and all right, then I'll be on my phone sometimes and then we'll watch a movie at night. Yeah, it can add up to 13 hours. And it's like, it's just really nice to take a step back and go, I'm just going to put myself on airplane mode and take a retro mode. And, we do little kind of retro like things. Like for your birthday a couple years ago, I rented this car.
That's how it came, baby.
And that's how the idea for the car came. And we went out everywhere for your birthday and drove around and listened to all the favorite songs.
The songs, exactly.
Just like Axel and Luna in the book. So we have our moments. We definitely have our moments of retro.
I just feel like it's good because, maybe one time our publishers are sending us emails. We can just be like, oh, we're in retro mode, like, sorry, we didn't see it. Like, that's it, just following the book.
Yeah, I remember that thing you published. Yeah, that's why we're not responding.
I'll be very curious to see how well that works going forward.
It doesn't work. No. It doesn't work for anyone. And Sophie, retro mode, she's like, come on.
Ironically, one of the things I love so many things about doing a program like this, but one thing I like about this is even though we're using technology to facilitate it, this is retro mode for me. Because we're talking, none of us have our cell phones out. If we were at dinner, one of us might check, I got a notification. And you're gone for a moment. You're still there, but you're gone. Whereas right here, I'm listening to everything you're saying. You're hearing me. We're communicating. I'm not checking those midterm results or anything else. It's just us. So
we're unplugged.
I consider the retro time.
That's true. By the way, I have a little prescription for you for that whole, dinner table phone thing. Well, I had this game I put with my friends. We go out to dinner and everyone puts their phone on the table face down. You stack it, and whoever grabs it first has to pay for the bill.
That's a good
and you just put it down, and you see them buzzing, and you want to, but it forces you all just to, I don't know, talk even more.
With your friends?
Talk even more than you would have before. And it makes for a fun day. Because, it's like kind of like retro. Like if one person was taking the challenge, it would really suck. Like it would suck. You're like the only person without a phone.
Yeah, that's called go to a cave.
Yeah, that's not what we're proposing. It's like everyone does it, right? You do it as a group of 5 people, or do a group of in the book, it's it's hundreds, it becomes even more, it becomes a phenomenon. And that's fun, right? Because you're all living this experience and you're all living this thing. That's why at the dinner table, if you all put the phone down, then it's fun. If one person puts it sucks.
Can you imagine? Well, you can't imagine because you've been present for it. But if you're the person whose phone is buzzing and like, I bet it's that really important thing I've been waiting for, I'll risk it, I'll take it, and then it's like just somebody complaining to you on Twitter, like, no, I got to buy dinner and I didn't get the message I wanted.
Or it's somebody who's calling you, and then other people see that you actively see you screen a call. You don't want to be in that situation. Like, is this what happens when I call you?
Why are you calling, you monsters? Text. So I'm curious about you've got a production company together that those Lobos Entertainment that is going to eventually be film and television as well as books. So how do you transition, or do you have like a 10-year plan, 5-year plan? How you're going to transition from writing to books, or is it always going to be writing books but also doing film and television?
Exactly. So pretty much every single time we'll write a book, we own the intellectual property to that book. So from there, we have entertainment agents and managers and lawyers. They'll go take it out. We'll get a deal somewhere, and then
hopefully be the screenwriters.
And then hopefully be the screenwriters on the get-go. And if not, then it can take longer. Maybe the show gets made, and we'll be in the writer's room. It's just whatever. It's kind of I guess in essence, a bargaining chip for our own careers. Yeah. And every single year, we're able to create a new shiny object for the entertainment industry. So with that, we'll be able to not only work in America, but also in Spain and eventually parlay that into directing. So the goal will be just to continue to write. It's difficult though, because I know we're thinking sometimes of the television show, but at the end of the day, you have to write the novel. The novel has to come first. And sometimes you have to say no to things that you think you might see in this big movie in your head, because it's like you have to service the book. The book is the book, and that's the first thing. I mean, this is something that we wrote and directed. Like, it's done. Like that's what I love about a book, is when you write a screenplay, you write it, and then people change it, and then maybe it never gets made. And it's like, no, this is made. It's made because it's printed. And that's what's really cool about a book. It's like you're directing a movie for everyone in their head.
Honestly, there's so many changes and setbacks that I know screenwriters face just from the ones I've talked to on this show that I don't know why they don't all write books first. Like the book is for sure. It's definitely
exactly.
maybe it happens.
Yeah,
I know. And I grew up seeing my dad doing that. So it was just kind of, it became a really natural pace for us. And now it's been 4 or 5 years for us looking back on that decision to go that direction. And we're like,
thank
God we did that, because now more than ever, if it's not based on a book or a podcast or a Marvel movie that was already made 20 years ago, it's not getting made.
No. Plus, I feel like even if we don't have, obviously, in entertainment, in Hollywood, they're not going to listen always our opinion on everything. At least this is our opinion. So how much you can change this? You know, someone can take it and try to change things, but at the end, the book is the book, and these are my 350 pages of opinion.
It's creative protection. And for example, imagine we write this for this kind of thing. Similar kind of thing happened with Dry. We wrote Dry for Paramount as a screenplay. And you write a certain amount, but they can't deviate from your book so much because they're going to piss off the producers will piss off all the fans. So all the fans really keep producers accountable to the book, which is really nice. And then you don't get bumped off the project per se, as far as the Writers Guild is concerned, because the new writers that come in can only change so much. They can't change all your characters. So technically it actually is an interesting way. It's insurance to preserve your own involvement in the screenplay process. If you had the luxury of writing the screenplay, because it's based on the material.
Pretty smart. Talking about some 3D chess that's happening here.
Yeah, there's some 4D chess.
Of course, the downside of that, once in a while it does happen, is a film will make a big deviation. Everyone will say, well, we like that better. What was the writer thinking? You should have done that.
You know what? Love to have that problem.
Yeah.
We'll talk at that point. We'll talk
for our new home.
We'll have to come back in a year or two and talk about how much that sucks for us.
I think it was your dad told me that even if they make a bad movie, the marketing for the book alone is well worth it. Great, make a bad film.
Exactly right. Yeah, right. Yeah. Even that's a good point. Yeah, even if the movie doesn't really go anywhere or do that well,
no, it's marketing.
It's marketing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about also owning the book as well, right? Because then you have an insurance policy even on the book end. So it's like you win in multiple directions. And there's also so many things like international sales or audio rights. It really is, somebody brought it up to me. I forgot who it was. A friend brought it up to me and was like, this is like you built a house. It's an asset. A book gives you ways to create money in all these different ways, which is something that I always thought was so interesting about an intellectual property. You can rent it, you can sell it, you can rent out certain properties about it. So yeah, we always thought that was interesting.
I remember when the Battlefield Earth movie came out, it was so terrible. Like, there's no way the book is that bad. And it wasn't. It was a great book. And if that movie hadn't been so bad, I never probably would have made time to read it. So when you guys transition into or start making films, are you going to be Coen brothers types where you go back and forth between who's going to direct, or do you have roles chosen? One of you is more producer, one of you is more director, or?
I think it'll go kind of the way that the books go, where we both identify our strengths and then we kind of defer to that person on those things.
But we will both want to direct. We both want to direct.
Yeah.
So the idea is to direct together.
Yeah. So we'll direct together the same kind of way, but I think I'll be a little more oriented in the camera and blocking
and technique
and
cities.
Yeah, technique and things like that. And Sophie will be a little bit more with the actors. Yeah. How
the characters. I used to work as a casting director. So I really, really connect with the characters and the actors, right? Like I can really explain to them, and I love that part. So we're really like we
design
have already
really design.
So we have really clear what we like.
Yeah. So it's kind of like in the books, sometimes there'll be moments where I defer and go, what, Sophie, I'll just take whatever you say. I'll take your opinion on this aspect, and that's what allows us we pick the things we'll compromise on.
Gotcha. So you'll have your shot list or your storyboard. You'll be like, all right, we got the camera right where we need it. And the actor says, what's my motivation? And you go, Sophie, you answer the question. And we'll go ahead. What the esteemed audience knows, I have to ask, because I ask everybody who comes on the show, have either of you ever seen a flying saucer and or a ghost? Sophie, we'll start with you.
Okay. Here's the thing, and it's really weird and interesting and weird. Sometimes it happened to me, and I don't think it was real. I don't know, it's the brain, right? But like when you wake up at night and you see the darkness, your brain makes images and makes shapes that look like humans. And I remember seeing one really, really properly well done. Like, okay, I see you, right? But I know I'm really sleepy, so I will never know how for real I saw that, but in my brain was making total sense. I saw the shape of a person in the corner of my home, 100%.
It could have been a ghost. Could have just been a image left over from sleeping. We don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm
like
exactly
something a little more than.
I think that's the closest thing I mean. Yeah.
And as far as, I guess I'll take the more alien-esque question.
Mhm.
As far as like anything else of the paranormal, I've never seen or had any direct contact with any extraterrestrial beings.
No.
I have not, but I believe that they are there. They are somewhere.
Oof, I don't know.
They're out there. They're definitely out there. It's
I don't know.
statistically like very improbable that they're not.
But what
out
is
there.
an alien, right? Like, are there things there?
A
Yes.
bacteria on Mars is technically an alien.
Yeah, then yes, absolutely.
That stuff exists.
Hmm.
Are they fuzzy and do they like make little noises on a different planet like a million miles away and we don't care and they don't care about us and know about us? Probably. But I think it's happening.
For all we know, we're all interacting with aliens on a regular basis, and we have no idea.
That's
You
interesting.
just ruined my night. When this is over, I'm gonna be like laying in bed staring at my ceiling about that one.
Why did my agent say "you humans" the other day? He kept saying "you humans" are so strange. I don't know why he would do that. Odds are maybe one of us on this very episode is an alien. Who knows, esteemed audience? But this has been absolutely wonderful. I've watched our time and it's flown by. This has just been a wonderful conversation. I can't thank both of you enough for making the time. For tonight, my final question is always some variation of if you could go back, I don't know, 7 years ago, 14 years ago, wherever it would have been the best spot for you to go back and give yourself some advice that would have made easier your path and might make easier the paths of everybody who's watching or listening to us. What would you go back and tell yourself? And Sophie, I asked you the first question. So Jarrod, I'll give you the last one.
I would say going back, one of the things is always trust in your ability and confidence to write, which means don't feel bad to throw away something that you've written. You know, that writing is a reflection of you. You're not a reflection of it. So when you damage it, there's no hex that's going to hurt you. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. I think I didn't really understand that starting off. I would take things personally. It would hurt me to delete. Now I write something like an assassin. I'll just kill it immediately. No problem. And building up that muscle was something that took time. And it's hard to like just give that wisdom to someone because you have to live it and learn it and build that muscle. But I would definitely say be patient and don't feel bad if you have to keep rewriting and keep redrafting and keep killing your babies or your darlings, because that's just the process.
And Sophie, what would you go back and tell yourself?
I will say be patient. Be patient, be patient, be patient 3 times. Because first, when you're talking about being creative, things don't happen the way you want. Unfortunately, creativity doesn't go from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It just happens. So just be patient and things will happen. Getting a deal with a book is not something that happens that fast, or write a screenplay, or find the character you build the character that you really want. Like, be patient, don't get desperate, because if you are rushing it, it's not going to come good. So be always patient. Within this industry, be patient.
Patience.
Yeah.
It moves at a snail pace.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect note to end on. Remind esteemed audience, where can we find you online and follow you on social media and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so it's Sofia and Jarrod is our like TikTok and Instagram handle, which is SOFIAND JARROD. So Sofia and Jarrod, and you can find us doing any fun, interesting, crazy,
Yeah.
hilarious thing, whether it's a trend, a piece of really important information, or some kind of writing tip that we have, we're on there for everything. So.
No.
As always, esteemed audience, for more information about me, links to all my books, all that great stuff, and more importantly, for interviews almost as good as this one with thousands of literary agents, editors, authors, all the world's best people, book people, head to middlegradeninja.com, download your free copy of Banneker Bones and the Giant Robot Bees. It will change your life. And God willing, I'm alive. I'll see you next week.